Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of TA Tech Unboxed, the podcast that's chatting to the people behind the tools that we use every day in TA and the HR community. If you are listening to this, don't forget to jump over to YouTube, subscribe, because we are housing demos of the guests that come on and a bunch of other people that are pipelined to come on later in the year. We want you guys to check it out, give us some feedback, let us know what tools we should bring on, and of course, get some real live demos with the providers as well. I am Chris Haslam, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Darren Bush. How the devil are you, sir?
I'm tired, Chris, but usual Chris.
I brought the energy today, have I?
Today you brought the energy. Yeah. Thanks for that.
It's a second recording of the week, which is always rough for us.
I think that's probably what it is. You know what?
Late nights, you having to listen to my dulced tones. My dulced tones. I got a beard shave for you. My haircut
as well.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, looking good.
Anyway, so this week our theme. This show, because this week
I think it's video, right? Our theme is
we're going to go video. We're going to talk about video. We're not sure why, but we're going to talk about video on LinkedIn. Why does it suck so much?
Yeah, so I think it was like video LinkedIn and video in hiring. So video, So I was saying before Chris before the show, I did a video, and it hasn't done very well on LinkedIn, and it's me doing a recording, and it's about 4.5 minutes long. Maybe that's the problem. It's too long. Or maybe it's me talking, but I just generally when I put video up as well, when we put clips of these shows as well, some of them do really well, like 80,000. We've had some views, impressions on some, and then others will just do sort of like a couple of thousand on here. But yeah, it's a real hit and miss with video. What do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. My thought process on why might be different to also guys. If you're listening to this, we'd love some feedback. We'd love some feedback. Definitely there's an algo thing. Although I've been reading everywhere that LinkedIn's going to turn its feed into a bit of a TikTok-y.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
Yeah, so I don't really get why it's not encouraging creators to create with video now. I mean, it seems weird to me. But and they've had that
the old reason was in the office that you might be looking at links in the office and you've got no sound. So that was the old reason why they thought video weren't doing very well, because you wouldn't want to watch it. You want to read subtitles.
To be honest with you, I don't know if I want video on LinkedIn personally. I don't not want to see great content, but I don't want it to become TikTok. Like I'll be on TikTok if I want. What I like about LinkedIn is it's different to Twitter, so it's a different content forum to Twitter, in terms of copy, but it's also and which for me is quite business. I use Twitter for business stuff anyway, like I'm reading about startups and whatnot. So LinkedIn for me is super focused. So I don't really want it to become a social platform. But video business, B2B video content like our stuff and the post you put out today, I really do think it's missing a trick, because they literally bomb, don't they? I mean, I don't share our videos for this show at all because they don't get any traction. But on YouTube, it's those shorts that get all the views, right? So it's fascinating subject. One, I think we're going to be talking about a little bit shortly.
Definitely.
Maybe.
I think in the next 10 seconds.
Okay. All right.
I think we should bring our guests on.
Let's do it. And who do we have on today's show, Darren?
Today, Chris, we got founder of Get-hired. We have Richard Hillier in the house, and a long-time friend and also a long-time fan of the show, I hear.
Oh.
I'm a long-time fan, yeah. And look at that, I was also called friend. Look at that. So nice. Hey.
So, Richard, obviously great to have you on here. I think all of us, we've known each other for a while, but for those, obviously, who don't know anything about you, you able to give us a sort of brief background?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the founder of Get-hired, which is basically I'm probably going to call it like a talent network site, because I really hate the term job boards. But yeah, it's talent networking, specifically focusing on SDRs, or mostly in the go-to-market sales space, but really niched into SDRs. It's been a big pain point for me throughout my career of hiring for salespeople. And then, yeah, then I also help. I'm a really big proponent for what I'm going to term as like manager enablement. So that's really kind of helping managers think through the hiring process, get them trained up in the right way, get them thinking around how do they hire much more effectively and better for their teams.
Yeah. So if you've got Adam Gordon on the recruitment enablement driving that, you got Richard on the hiring manager
Yeah.
enablement. Which,
Yeah.
Before obviously you get hired, you able to give us a sort of brief background, a little bit about your TA history and how did you get into the industry? And
Yeah, I think like everybody else, I stumbled into it. I don't actually know anybody that's ever gone, hey, I
I
trained
chose
to be a recruiter. Did you?
I chose Chris and I chose it as
I was
a career.
19. I was 19 and I was painting walls.
There you go.
I was 24 and I didn't want to do banking and insurance anymore. I was a credit analyst and I thought, why don't I do recruitment?
Yours sounds smarter than mine. Yours sounds
Yeah.
I walked up to a mate, Richard, and went, "You wear nice clothes. What do you do?"
Pretty sure it's in Wolf of Wall Street, isn't it? So that's how we got the job.
Pretty much, by the sounds of it.
Sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So I stumbled into it, trained as a lawyer, but stumbled into recruiting. And I just remember going to my very first agency, and the founder there, or the managing director, was like, "Right, okay, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to be a lawyer." And he was like across the table. He was like, "Do you know you're interviewing for a recruiter job?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm just using this to pay the bills." So he ended up doing a deal because he was an ex-lawyer. He was like, "Okay, tell you what, do your deal. 6 months. If you're still here in 6 months, you haven't found a job. You can carry on basically, but you can't look for another law job." And now, 18 years later, I'm still kind of within that TA people space. So initially started there, which is mainly looking at like audit recruitment, finance recruiting. Then moved into after that moved into exec search, specifically into asset wealth management. So I did like private banking recruiting mostly, and then joined JP Morgan Chase, where I spent probably about 9 years or just under 9 years within their asset wealth management business, but then also more broadly across their centralized kind of HR recruiting teams as well, looking very much at like operational efficiencies and helping on cross transformational projects, looking at how do we move and change JP Morgan from multiple single lines of business HR teams to one HR team. So that was really cool. So I got to see a lot, do a lot. Really good exposure in terms of knowledge across processes and how do you build really good processes. Got really bored of doing change transformation projects, and I was a bit really want to do something else. So then ended up joining Revolut. So I moved into the tech space and fintech. So I joined Revolut, ran their non-tech recruiting business kind of globally for them, and that was all about how do we go, because this is before they were really big. So they were about 400 people, and for them they were going, okay, we like 100 a month, 200 a month. We want to increment, gradually go through rapid, massive growth. How do we make sure our processes are like really fit for purpose? How do we ensure our teams hire really quickly, really move the needle on bums on seats? Which is completely eye-opening because as opposed to JP Morgan, which was all about quality, it was like we'd much rather find the one person, spend a year trying to find them and headhunt them to get the right person rather than go mass volume. And then after that, got headhunted by a company called Airwallex, which if you haven't heard of Airwallex, they're basically Stripe's direct competitor, based over in Australia, and they're trying to do a lot of banking as a service. And I was their employee number 10, and I was their head of people and talent for Europe. Grew that business from 11 employees to about 150, expanded out into like the Netherlands business. That was really exciting because that was literally, despite being quite advanced within Europe, they didn't have any of the system structures, didn't know anything around people, strategies, nothing. So that was quite interesting. And then moved from there to a company called IMO, which is a real estate property where I was their head of people and talent. They went through big growth. So they went from like 100 people to about 200, 250 in like the space of about 9 months. Open up new legal entities for them across India, new satellite offices across all of Germany, and that was quite exciting. And then unfortunately got made redundant from there, and then kick-started my Get Hired business from there.
Wow,
That's
take
me
a
now.
bow.
I mean, and also you didn't just get into recruiting. I mean, what I can see here, you went from asset management to head of non-technical recruitment at Revolut during what I think is the boom years of
I
Revolut.
think so.
It was the boom years of Revolut, yeah.
Negative press
I mean,
as well at times around the recruiting processes.
Nick was very present at that point as well, because you were like 400. Like Nick was very, very present in our recruiting meetings, which made recruiting meetings a lot of fun, to put it mildly. Yeah, I think I still have nightmares about those meetings.
That's impressive background. So why Get Hard? Why? What was the problem you're trying to solve there?
I guess for me, the problem I was trying to solve is job boards, right? How many of us, right? I'm going to ask a question to you both. When you go to a job board, what is the ROI that they give you?
he's interviewing us. He's interviewing us now based on the stuff we said we
Chris has
wanted
got
to
stuff
speak
for you.
about.
Yeah.
I mean, like marketplace and job board. Are we agreeing they're not the same thing?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I would agree. Marcus,
So
yeah,
job board is post job, wait for
I'll say
applications to
separate.
come through.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
wait for an application to come through. I'd say like majority that I speak to are nominal, but I do think there are some great ones, like those really community heavy ones where they
yep,
they run a lot of events. Actually, they often spin off the back of community, don't they?
yeah, they do.
Maybe like Hung is a great example of that in our space. The job board came last, and I often see lots of great value from those. There's some really great ones like women in tech and stuff, I think, as well, that have
Yeah,
been super great, and some diversity and inclusion job boards have done it. But sweeping generalization,
yep,
frustratingly low ROI. I think we talked, didn't we, pre-show, Richard?
yeah,
There seems to be this lack of exchange of I've given you £1, I expect some ROI, even if it's nominal, even if it's just learning.
yeah,
Like, hey, loads of people clicked on your ad, but no one applied. Did anyone apply? No. Okay, well, let me have a look and
yeah,
see why that might be. That sort of stuff really frustrates me. Long answer to your question. I'll shut up there.
yeah.
Um,
And I genuinely think that is something I continuously saw. Even when I was at like JP Morgan, it was you'd have all these job boards like eFinancials, Total Jobs, City Jobs back in the day. They would come to you and be like, "Oh yeah, we've got like 250,000 or 1 million people on our database. Great. How many of those are relevant to my jobs?"
or they go, they talk about traffic.
Yeah, traffic is the other one. Oh, we can
Like,
guarantee like
uh,
click on the site.
yeah.
Okay. And then your next problem is the one thing I always used to see, in particular at Revolut, you post a job out and then you just get rubbish coming through.
80%
You'd get,
rubbish.
yeah, like it was like almost, I remember like product manager roles or like VP of sales, and you'd have someone that worked at KFC apply for the job. It's like no alignment on what it is. And I'm like, but why is it fine for I guess the job board to receive my money, and yet it's acceptable that rubbish comes through. I'm not getting any return. And then this really became prevalent when I was at JP. I also did a lot of work at JP Morgan as well, was going through every single job board, trying to tag how the application flow and the conversion rates on each of those.
Interesting.
And I think it worked out. Like when we were at JP Morgan, across every single job board we had, I think we only hired, I think it was about 3 people from them. And bear in mind, every single job ad was going out, right? A lot of the traffic was actually coming from referrals or direct outreach, that kind of stuff, but very little. And then also to piggyback off like Chris' point, and this is the other big pain point for me, the job boards is if you're not getting any traffic back or the candidates aren't right, where's the dialogue? Like it's not a candidate that's paying for the service. Yes, we do as a job board. You need to be making sure that there's a great seamless process for the candidate and they're getting feedback, etc., and you're on top of that. But it's also the paying customer. It's your customer that you also need to represent. And there was just a severe lack of engagement. So I just spent ages just going through trying to find out, and Otter at the time was probably the best one that I really came across in terms of his offering and what he was doing. Um, and there has been slight change in terms of Otter now. It seems to be really expanding outside of the tech space because it was like the number one for startups, right? I remember when he was doing it, and it was really great at that stuff. But again, it's really focused on going back to Chris's point, it's like very community led, very almost like market driven, very niched, and they're really trying to add value through the process, which is what I really liked. So hence why I came up with basically Get Hired. It was a name I created something way back in COVID days to try and help people get. Just kind of stuck with that. I had basically the domain name and everything registered, so I kind of piggybacked off it.
It's a good one.
And yeah, that's where it does nothing.
I thought it was the same way as a domain name I bought about 15 years ago, and I've done nothing with it. Now, because I don't know about anything else, but I've got about 20 of those domain names that I keep paying.
I think I've got like 5 or 6 domain names that I still got. I just never done anything
one
with.
One day I'll use that one. Whereasthebus.com.
Seriously hungry.
Yeah.
Hungry is mine. Got that a few years ago. It was my cooking blog.
That's a good one. So where I want or where Get Hired really sits is that really value add to both candidates and clients. From a client perspective, if we're looking at it from a business when you post a new job, where we are trying to get to is better job adverts, because this is again one of my pet peeves in the industry. It's always copy paste, right? You always get these bog standard copy paste job descriptions, kind of half weaned out. Doesn't really sell the role to the candidate. It doesn't really explain anything. So we're trying to push, and we're being very, very clear. I'm quite late stages now of testing a space whereby you, as the hiring manager, I say the hiring manager, or the recruiter, can put in what it is you're looking for, and it will spit out a customizable job advert. So you can tweak the job advert, you can see it, you can put in your behaviors, your values, what it is you're looking for, the role title, and it brings out or spits out a job advert for you, which then you can play around with, tweak it, customize it, send it out, which has got great, I'm probably going to say it as well, SEO enablement, not really SEO enablement, it's that really drive around selling the role and what are the advantages, who are the types of people. Yeah, it's really focused on that candidate and the right candidate. But then also what I do, because I'm tracking the data, is once you've got the role posted, if you're not getting the right engagement and something's missing, we then loop in with you and go, hey, here's the current run rate on it. Here's the current hit rate on it. You're not getting the right level. Let's have a conversation. Have you thought around, and this is what we have seen work really well. Here's some tips and edits and guidance for you. We're also seeing it across applications where we can say, hey, I've actually noticed you're rejecting 80% of your candidates that are going through. Yeah, when we look at the matching capabilities of the skills and behaviors you're looking for, the candidate's fairly aligned. What's the issue? Let's delve deep into that. So it's trying to really add value.
You've built a back end on this as well that they manage the applicants through, right? Okay, because most job boards, of course, just push straight to the application page. Actually,
the application. Yeah. Whereas I'm trying to, I guess this is almost like grandmaster plan, is trying to enable having almost like, in particular for the SME businesses and small businesses and high growth organizations, is having that space where they can really drive that employer brand, that journey life cycle all the way through to the onboarded. Because I think for them, what I have really noticed is they focus on little bits of the process as they go through, and then just everything goes completely messy. They don't really have good, strong brand. They don't really have to attract the candidates. They're a bit messy in terms of onboarding and all that kind of stuff. So there's a viewpoint for me that may well shift into this like all-in-one kind of ATS, boardy type, networky type thing.
I also think that like a lot of the job boards that we see, I'm putting you in that bracket, Richard, for some reason. It's maybe not fair if you're evolving outside. It sounds like more marketplace, right? With a application, the job board, like the one we're comfortable with at the front, right? The journey that we're comfortable with. But I think one of the things I find frustrating is not job boards, niche job boards that don't think about their community, right? I think that's where Otter excelled, is that they focused on, okay, cool. So like what matters to people that want to work at startups? I think if I remember at the beginning, it was really values led, wasn't it? They were analyzing the company's values
Values.
and sharing those. And you could almost semi-search for roles based on values. If I remember correctly, I mean, forgive me, I did try to build a job board called Just Startup Jobs in COVID as well. And it was more for a learning thing. So I got a bit obsessed with this a little bit, and I'm with you. Like finding a way that your niche community can identify a role that looks good for them, maybe is not the company's. Like maybe that's where the journey's wrong for the company that's posting, right? So my careers page is structured for my careers page. I can't do much about that. Each job looks like its job. We use Workable, so we get like sections in it. I know you can break it and change it around and be a bit creative with it, but it's relatively like that. Whereas like with SDRs, as you'll know, one of the things SDRs care about is progression, or like what's the progression to AE? What's the training like to get you to AE? Like what is the comp plan? Like finding that information on your job board, to me, is the bit that I think most companies miss on their most job boards miss. They sort of just display job title, location, salary, where they're missing that little bit that's like, actually, no, this community, they care about salary, but they don't care about, or they care more about that, which is where Otter got it right. Like so people like really values aligned, or mission aligned. So they really focused on that element. How are you seeing that play out for you and your ideas?
Yeah, great question. I'd probably say fairly similar. Like it is very much, in particular for like SDRs, as you said, the one biggest thing that they care about is how do I go from SDR to AE and how can I get there really quickly? That's the biggest one. So really kind of drawing that out within the information that's shared, right? So whether that's in the adverts, whether that's in the initial conversations, whether that's in additional insights that once you apply, you get like an email that says, hey, here's our structure, this is what we do, here's our training philosophy. All of that kind of stuff's a big one. And I think for me, your point is like really key, because the only way, in particular, like Get-hired can really progress is focusing on that community element for the SDRs and going, how can we help develop these individuals to shift in that space? And how can we be that key player within that space for the SDRs? And it's all about how can we run workshops, but then it's also about, and this is where I think it can become really clever, is if organizations start getting involved with these types of conversations with like Get-hired, for example, and there are other players in the market that do well, is getting involved in that space and really demonstrating your employer brand. Like if you're front and center and go, oh yeah, this is what we do, here's the stuff, and like really ramp in and send in AEs who were SDRs who weren't promoted, sending that and telling the story will really, really increase a lot of their stuff. And then just touching on like SDR hiring generally and sales hiring generally in the space, every organization, every startup, every SaaS company, every tech business gets it wrong on so many levels. It's like unfoundedly broken. And again, this is where I think Get-hired can help, because we're very, very focused on behaviors and the skill sets you're looking for, rather than just going, okay, who's the best performing SDR over Atlassian? And I just want to hire them. Like that's not going to get you the same person. That's not going to give you the same results.
So now we're talking the side of the receiver of the application, also replicating an experience that is unique for those individuals. I'm 100% with you here. This is Darren, I don't know if you have got any experience with this, but like to me, that's where it sucks the most. It's like, cool, here's a bunch of people that have looked at your job this week, or like, here's the numbers that we've sent to you. It's like, that's no value, low or no value to me. I can't identify who they were. I don't know. I'm talking like these low friction spin up community ones. Of course, a lot of high quality, high end job boards will integrate using use Stack One you come and integrate. We had remote.
Good plug.
Yeah. He doesn't sponsor this either, by the way. So this.
That was just for free, right? That's what you do. You come on the show, and we'll
exactly plug you for free. But those that don't, the smaller ones, and I guess that's where you guys will eventually be, right, integrated into everyone's system. So when they apply, people will know it comes from you. But like that's where they break down. It's like now you've done this great experience for the community to now like look at the jobs as an SDR, unique to an SDR, and the things I'm not allowed to swear, care the most about. Got it right, got through it. But when I received that application, what are you doing to help me go, that person's a great SDR as well at speed, value.
Yep.
And reality is, can do it in a form most of the time. Like we're not asking for much, right? We're just asking for a little bit of like support from that value exchange, that pound.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and I guess that's where, it's a rant that I've always said is like, why do I get 1,000 applications from X job board, but I don't know which ones are good or where should I be focusing my attention? And part of what we're doing and why it's currently still sat in our ecosystem for this is we are stack ranking them based on behaviors. So we look at so based on like scorecards, we can go, okay, so if you tell us you're looking for these XYZ behaviors, when the candidate applies, they complete this, then stack ranks them within that scorecard. And then from that, there's a certain percentile that we can do. We're still getting there on the data, but we are probably within a 70% accuracy on that. But we're kind of saying, hey, these are the top 5 that you want to be looking at. And then these ones at the bottom, you can still look at. But based on our scorecards and the behaviors you're looking for, or the scorecard you've agreed with us, they're not that fit. Because one of the things I was, you could be a great salesperson or a great SDR or a great AE at Atlassian. You move over to, I don't know, call it like Revolut, and you can't sell anything. 6 months later, you're being fired. Yeah. Different culture, different requirement, different sales cycle, different types of customer base, different product to sell. And it's, unless you understand the cultures and the values, and you're never going to succeed. And I think that's where sales, like in particular, heads of sales and recruiters within the go-to-market sales teams really need to understand is getting that basis right for what does a good salesperson look like within your org.
I mean, candidates want that as well. I mean, on their side, about that really helps them because they're making that big step to somewhere else. And 6 months in, or even a couple of months in, they know that it's the wrong move. And if you're telling me that as well, you show that transparency. That's useful. You mentioned a couple of things about obviously what the product does. This is a question I ask everyone. But where does Get-Hard start and where does it end?
Darren's big one. Darren's big one. That
is a very big question. So we start at probably the role posting stage, is where we'd start, and then we end once you kick off your interview process.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
We spoke. So we talk about let's talk about job boards a little bit more as well. You said I've been posting about job boards before, saying that there's an issue with job boards, and then I kind of referenced LinkedIn as not a job board, and I got well, obviously everyone criticised about it because LinkedIn is a job board. I mean, yeah, it is. Same Punk's point. Yeah, it is a job board, but you're not the primary resource I go in for. There are other things as well I go to LinkedIn for, and jobs may not be it. But I can get pushed and promoted on jobs, which is useful. What's your view on LinkedIn as the job board king at the moment, or the other job boards as well being dead?
Okay, so let's start with LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn dominates the recruitment market space, right? I don't think anyone can argue that. The one problem, let me rewind a little bit. LinkedIn is also pushing skills-based hiring right now quite heavily. So you can probably see it on people's profiles. They're pushing you to link your skills.
I can see your
reason they're doing that. Yeah, the one thing they are doing that I went to one of their events, I think it was last year, and they were talking about it. They're gradually going to shift a lot of their role postings to skills requirement. So then you'll start to see skills being attributed. The one challenge I would say is it's individual selected rather than LinkedIn saying, hey, according to our algorithm, these are your skills. So that's going to be a bit of a problem when you start shifting hiring, because you'll probably end up getting roles for like product directors tagged to your name and you're like, I've got no experience in that. But that's what they're trying to move to, which I think is a good thing. It's just how do you really quantify the skills? The big challenge with LinkedIn is the apply. It's like you can just sit there, and you've even got AI bots now, right? That can just automatically easy apply roles for you. You can apply for 1,000 roles in like 10 minutes, a minute.
Dumb.
Sorry, exactly.
Listen to this. Big shout out.
Don't do easy apply.
Big shout out to Matthew Parker and James Hudson, by the way, for starting their podcast, Open to Work, because they're talking about these kind of subjects. But I agree, it's so dumb. It's if we have got any reach to anyone who's applying for jobs, don't do this. Don't do this unless you've
Please
got.
Don't.
I think in.
Why not, Chris?
Why don't ask me. God, don't ask me. We've got 7 more minutes. I just think.
Next intro.
Just quickly on it. It's like we've all 3 of us have been the other end of an application, right? I can immediately tell someone who does not care about this. They just want to get their application in immediately. And then the second part of it is likelihood. They're making me work really hard to say, let me put you through, right? Whereas somebody that has a defined understanding of what they do and are capable of, and then applies for roles that they're certainly capable of doing, or give or take that. This doesn't have to be full capability, that applies and builds context for you specifically, is more likely to get like human beings reading a CV, right? So I'm looking at it going, right, what are the core skills for this? What are what's the scorecard I got to judge this person against? We've got to look through that CV. And we've got to go, cool, I'm going to, in an instant, decide whether I'm going to spend more time to look at this profile or not. If anybody thinks I'm sitting there looking for 1,000 applications, you don't know how it works. That's definitely not what's happening. We are looking. We've got visual triggers, right? That we were all looking for. Like if I know I need somebody to work in the UK, in the office in London, I am certainly going to look for people that have an office that have their address in London first, right? Because to get the job done quickly, we want to try and find people that can match that persona. I am a firm believer in making sure we ask the questions before we reject people. So don't say, hey, we're looking for people in London, so we're rejecting you. Like, hey, this role's based in London full time. Can we get it? I'm getting that too.
Yeah, I'm getting that as well.
It's gone now. Interesting, isn't it? Certainly.
It really is.
Should we pivot on to hire manager enablement?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about.
Yes.
So Richard, you obviously you're pushing that hire manager enablement agenda, which is great, and thank you for doing that. You also have another product as well that you offer.
Yeah, so it's basically, it's 2 things. Number 1 is interviewer training, and then the other one's manager training. So for me, the big thing about this is we always talk around candidate as a big thing. Yes, it is a big thing. We need to be doing it. And yet we see so much content on there for candidates on the candidate experience side. But the problem is the people running the process are not getting the right training, they're not getting the right investment, they're not being spoken to, they're not being told around what is good, what is bad. So it's almost that if no one else is kind of preaching or kind of putting content out there for those individuals, we're forever going to be in this like cycle of bad candidate experience, because it's not the candidate's fault that there's bad candidate experience, that's the hiring manager and the interview teams. So we need to be really driving and pushing throughout the entire process around, are you trained? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know the questions you've got? How are you structuring your interviews? What was your process looking like? Otherwise, we just get into this consistent vicious cycle, is my personal view.
Yes. Sorry, that took too long for me. That took too long for me to find the unmute
That was a
button.
very long pause.
Yes. I want to shout that. Because, like, you're right, Darren. Sorry, did I butt in on your point there? And I shouldn't do that because I love you.
Was it a Darren piece of wisdom or?
It was.
It was, but it's now gone.
Ah,
So
damn it.
Ah.
My bad. My bad. Sorry, I'm spiking.
one
today.
piece of wisdom I get per episode. It's just gone.
Yeah, sorry, I'm spiking with excitement. I'm excited today because I'm a big fan of Richard. I'm with you on this. Like, we focus too much on, in recruiting in general, we focus too much, I think, on solving, talking about the problem, and then only surface layer solutions to solving them.
Yeah.
So CX, reply to people quickly. It's not that easy. It's really not that easy if you have a HM who doesn't care to respond or doesn't understand why. So I'm totally and utterly with you. So training for things like, how to act in an interview as well. Like, of a question to the both of you here, and I'm going to start with Darren Richard because I think I know the answer to you. I think we've talked about this before. Darren, when was the last time a hiring manager came to you and said, "Hey, I'm not sure I'm a good interviewer. Can you help me?"
Once.
How long ago?
Whoa.
You've had one. I mean, that's bravo to that person.
Fell off there. It was like...
That guy should get an award. Sorry, that person should get an award.
Person.
That person should get an award because I'm sure that they were.
It's rare. Yeah. What about you, Richard?
Never.
What's this?
We're getting some clicking. Have you got a pen there, Richard, or something?
No pen.
Can you hear it, Richard?
Sounds like a pen clicking.
Can't hear any clicking.
Okay, it's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone. It's weird.
All good. It comes and goes. Might be a mic problem or a laptop.
Yeah. So, what about you, Richard? Have you, when you were working in previous companies?
None.
Why is it a blind spot for people? Is it because they've interviewed their life? They've been the candidate interviewed. And they just assume that they know what makes good interviews.
I think it's. Yeah, I think it's a overconfidence thing. I think it's people. I've interviewed people. I've hired people before. I know what I'm doing. Kind of mindset. Whereas in actual fact, they don't. Like I remember when you do the audit, like I've literally sat in on interviews, and there was one where hiring manager walked in, saw the candidate had brown shoes on, shook his hand, and went, "Thank you very much, nice to meet you," and left.
I don't know whether this is going to come through for our listeners, but like what?
A bit louder.
Sorry,
louder.
just
Go louder.
Like that. Honestly, I think we need to get into a world where CEOs and founders of businesses understand that is incredibly rude and I know I don't know. I don't even know where to start on it. I would discipline that individual if it was my business. If that happened in our business here, I'd be like, first of all, we do this for a living, so it would be very difficult for us to have people that did that. But if we did, I'd be ashamed. Like I really would, to know that somebody went through that experience with the brand that I care about, right? The one I've worked my life to build.
I have another question to follow up then. So if no one's come in and say they had interview training, from a scale from 0 to 10, if you ask hiring managers how confident are they about their evaluation process, about selecting the right person, that they're going to be a good performer, high performer in the role, what do you think that score would be?
I think they would go very high. I think they would score that quite high.
I would say I have a 50% hit rate, maybe 60% hit rate. Is what I would say.
I'd probably say mine's about that, maybe a bit less, but yeah.
And yet you would think if you want to get closer to sort of 80%, shouldn't you have interview training?
Yes, you should. As I would say.
I'm really sorry, chaps. I got distracted by the beeper going off. What was the question? Let's not cut this because I want people to feel real and close to us. I got distracted by the beeper going off. What was the question?
How long was the beeper going on for?
Oh, the whole time I was muted. The second you asked the question, and I was in the corner of my eye going, I can't turn it off.
That was almost a minute.
Yeah. So the question was about if managers say that they're confident, they don't need an interview training, they don't come to you interview training. From a scale from 0 to 10 or 0 to 100%, well, what percentage would they say they're effective at choosing the right candidate who's going to be a high performer?
Oh, interesting. Because I think that statement often means they're not. So I would say less than 50.
Yeah.
Like often folks that think they're great and aren't open to learning are the worst for me. You know, they are quite often they're young hiring managers. You know, they've been a few years as a hiring manager. They've hired a few people. Like we just pose some really simple questions to that kind of stuff, right? It's like, has anyone ever joined you and left within 3 months? Have you ever let anyone go inside 6 months that wasn't quite right? Right? The answer's nigh on yes every single time.
It is,
yeah. Well, then you need training. Is the simple answer.
The other big one for it as well, I always think, and I think startups are really bad for this, is you go, right, okay, I've got this role, right, and TA go, yeah, let's go hire, and you just want to speed to execute, which I understand. And then like, okay, who do you want in the interview? I want Dave, Sam, and Mike, for example. Okay, great. And then recruiter starts putting interviews in the diary. And then I'm like, well, how does that interview team know what good looks like? Because then do you hire manager interview goes, yeah, they're great, goes through the interview, and then, oh no, they weren't good enough. But is there stuff that the hiring manager is looking for that nobody else is looking for? And then you just have this big disconnect, zero alignment, and then before you know it, your recruitment process now takes 9 months.
We don't. Sorry, don't go.
I was going to say, you have a situation you go, you've seen like 4 or 5 interviews, and they go, I need to see one more person, and you're thinking, that person says no. What a waste! What a like basically
all the time you've now got
to say no,
and the time you're now holding the person that's actually hit all the core
marks
because the business is now sitting and waiting. We've started to be really brutal. So we call it a single hire product here. It's like it's not really something we want to sell, but we definitely understand that we're a recruitment company and people want to like know if we're any good at it before we come in, right? Sometimes case studies and experience and the pitch doesn't cut it. Quite often they come into that kind of experience. They're like, cool, let's jump on and let's do a brief. I'm like, whoa, slow down. We take time to prepare for our briefs, and there are outcomes to that brief. One of those is we try to build at least the screening scorecard and HM1 scorecard, because once you've got those two down, we're really aligned. If they don't want to build the entire process one with us for a single hire, like recruitment agency type work, then fine. But we're happy to help them right the way through, because that allows us to really understand what everybody's going to judge this individual against. It doesn't need to take long, right? Really, you just need competencies and some good and ChatGPT, once you've got the competencies, can be used to give you some great questions to use on a scorecard. All of a sudden, half an hour of chat, we've now got scorecard for the 3 interviews we're going to do. The technical stuff is often the most difficult one, right? I wouldn't use ChatGPT for that. I'd make sure that's context specific. But like, if we're judging people against their ability to be organized, because we need something, this is a bit chaos here, and when this person we've been brought in, we need to be super organized. Like, how are we going to ask that question? How are we going to ask them a question to elicit our answer? And then, really, I don't really care for what looks good, because I think what looks good often is, I think it's 1,000 right answers to what looks good. And sometimes like what you think or what you think's good might be like, it's a super specific use case to it. What's a bad answer needs to be documented, right? We need to be super clear what bad looks like. So I'm really with you on the subject of training, preparing properly for interview, not letting a process start before it's got a process. If you get it right at the top and you can really understand what that is, then you do facilitate some speed, and it's way easier to focus on the candidate's experience. Like I mentioned this to Andrew the other day. I was like, this is great, because I like all the questions are written down here, so I'm really engaged. I'm really engaged. And you don't have to, like, if any HMs that are listed to this, sorry, Darren, what was it?
If they're listening to it,
if many HMs are listening to this, like, it's okay to go, bear with me, let me go to my scorecard. Oh yes, that's the next question. That's actually quite fun. A little bit of vulnerability is okay. It shows you're structured. It's totally fine. About being present and about being engaging. I think that's what matters more.
We've got to wrap this up in 2 minutes. We've got like 3 questions to ask. So we're going to do quick fire questions to you, Richard.
Okay.
First question is, how many in your experience, when you go to speak to companies, have they got scorecards set up?
Do you want a percentage number or a yes, no?
You can do a number, percentage.
Number percentage, well, it's normally like 40% do.
That's higher than I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
Second question: any TA tech tools that you come across that you're also curious, interested in?
Ooh. That you haven't done? Is that what you're like?
You're a mega fan, so that's not fair. But you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be what we haven't done. Just ones you've impressed.
Yeah, it can be anything.
Yeah. Okay. Bigger ones. I'd probably say Scotty AI is probably out there.
Nice.
Like one.
Interesting.
And I think that episode was pretty good. I was like, it's going to be really interesting to see how they take that AI in the recruitment process. A random out there one. There is a tech tool that I don't think TA use enough is Zapier.
Oh, yeah.
You can automate so much with Zapier, and I actually think there's a missed potential for TA to actually use it in the right way.
Favorite automation?
But yeah.
What's your favorite recruitment automation, Richard?
Ooh.
Mine are all to Slack. I think mine are all like notification to Slack.
Yeah.
NPS to Google Sheets. New line in Google Sheet to Slack. Share data in a channel that's private for me and Adri on. We literally see every single NPS and candidate NPS that we get. It's like my favorite channel of all time. I love it because it means we're doing good work, right?
Yeah. And then the last question, Richard, is how do people find out about you and get hired?
So number one, go to get-hired.xyz or get-hired.xyz. Connect to me on LinkedIn. And currently also offering 3 months free. So if you are hiring salespeople, 3 months free.
Just mention TA Tech Unboxed to get the 3 months free.
TA Tech Unboxed and you get a discount.
You get 3 months and you get 3 months free.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
100%. Well, look, Richard, as a friend of the podcast, a friend of Darren and I, thank you so much for coming on. It's been fun.
Thanks for having me, gents. It's been a pleasure.
It certainly has. Yeah, I mean, guys, that's it. That's it for this week's show. Thanks so much for joining. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out Get Hired. Don't forget to get some free hiring manager training. Not free, sorry. Get some hiring manager training from Richard. That's it. That's it for this week's TA Tech Unboxed. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.